Hi, I'm Greg from the SGFC Football Podcast. Following this week's Premier League matches, we've got a few things that we need to talk about. First up, it's my beloved team, Chelsea. Chelsea. Another disappointing result. They find themselves 14th in the table, one win in their first 5 games. They just don't look like a team that has spent over £400 million in this summer transfer window. Like I said, 1 win in 5, and that was against Luton, for God's sake. It's like a bad hangover. Last season was the real big piss up, and it was just awful after awful after awful. And we thought, do you know what? Fresh start, new manager, new players coming in, a lot of money spent. This could be the time for Chelsea to redeem themselves. And it just hasn't happened. Not at all. There are 2 main problems really plaguing this Chelsea team: injuries and a lack of goals. Should we start with injuries? I mean, the list is pretty incredible, and some big names are out. If I just read them off, where are they? Here we go. It's a huge list right here. Reece James, Christopher Nkunku, Moise Caicedo, Wesley Fofana, Romeo Lavia. They're the big names, but you're also missing people like Armando Broja, Trevor Chalobah, all squad players. I think, the 11 that make up a Chelsea injured 11, it's worth like 300 or 400 million on its own. Now, I know what you're thinking, and I'm not saying that if Chelsea had Armando Broja available and Trevor Chalobah, they'd be in a better position, but it just gives the squad a bit of depth. I mean, at the weekend, they had 6 under-21 players on the bench, none of which had played Premier League football. Now, again, we go back to Chelsea has spent over £1 billion on transfers, but can't fill the bench. I mean, one of the players that I really want to see back, apart from Reece James, obviously, is Benoit Badiashile. The guy was starting to form a good partnership with Thiago Silva when Wesley Fofana was injured last season. It was starting to gel, things were working, and now Thiago Silva is having to build a relationship with Dizazi. It's been a bit hit and miss. I just like to see these squad players come in so that if they're called upon, they can make a difference. Chelsea's bench can't change a game. Don't talk to me about Cole Palmer either, waste of £40 million. Although, based on his performances so far, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that Moise Caicedo is currently injured. I mean, £115 million was it in the end? It's not been good so far. It really hasn't. And as a Chelsea fan, you hope that it gets better, and you hope that he finds his footing, quite literally, against West Ham, that he's just able to build up a bit more of a reputation, because it's a big price tag over his head, and I know that will haunt him in every game, and opposition fans will remind him of it. But yeah, we hope he does come good, but someone's got to step up in this team. No one is stepping up in this Chelsea team. No one is taking the responsibility for bringing this team forward and dragging them all up, getting the poor performances behind them and leading by example. Ben Chilwell came on. He played an alright game, but your left back isn't going to win you the game on his own. He can set an example, but everyone else has got to follow. And that leads me on to my next point, Chelsea's lack of goals. It kind of mixes in with the injuries. Christopher Nkunku injured in what was, I think, the final pre-season game is just Chelsea's luck. Like, we all thought he would be our main striker, or at least our main outlet for goals, and he might not be back for another 3 or 4 months. It has left a hole in the team, a hole that has been filled by Nicholas Jackson. Now, he has been okay. Only okay. Okay? I can't doubt his work ethic. The guy runs, and the guy puts himself about, and he's battling for possession, he's going back and making tackles, but it's almost like he's trying to do too much. He's dropping so deep to try and win the ball and put pressure on the opposition team, when really, I want to say to him, listen, stay in that number 9 position, because you need to be that outlet for Mudryk and Sterling to play a ball into. We saw the weekend again, Mudryk just not being able to be any sort of threat whatsoever. He had one shot that was saved, but he needs that link up with someone. He needs an outlet that he can focus on and constantly get balls into the box for. His crossing game at the weekend wasn't the best, and it hasn't been the best since he's been at Chelsea, but practice makes perfect. If he keeps trying to aim for the same person in similar positions, that sort of muscle memory will build. Same with Sterling as well. Yes, he nearly scored the free kick and, but nearly doesn't get you the points. It doesn't win you games. Give Sterling the opportunity to find someone in the box. You've got two wing-backs in Malo Gusto and Ben Chilwell who want to play balls into the box. And currently they're aiming at Mudryk, sometimes Conor Gallagher, who's making a late run, and 4'9" Sterling? It's never been his best attribute, heading. Don't let him do it. Let him either have the option to cut inside and shoot, or let him be able to cross the ball. But just stay there. Stay as a number 9. That's what you're there for. Once Nkunku comes in, if you want to play a little bit further back, maybe they can work something out. But for right now, Nicholas Jackson, for love of God, stay as a striker. Just stay in that position, please. All the stats are really stacked against Chelsea, and I just don't see it improving in the coming weeks. They've scored 5 goals in 5 games. Again, 3 against Luton. Whoop-de-doo. They are 11th in the league for shots on target and 12 big chances missed. It is just not good reading. They're crying out for a striker. I mean, you're not going to go and find Erling Haaland to be able to save you from all these woes. But for love of God, they've got to turn their possession into chances. So many times we saw at the weekend, they would run up to the final third and then have a look around. Oh, Nicholas Jackson's playing in midfield because why not? And then pass it backwards and then pass it off to the side. There needs to be more fluidity moving from the defence into the attack, which just isn't there right now. Also very interesting to see, as just kind of a side note, no Cucurella and no Madueke involved. Again, I mentioned, 6 under-21 players involved on the bench, but you've got no space for Cucurella or Madueke, Madueke, very good, promising talent, has played some good games last season and a few at the beginning of this. I wonder what's going on there. Hopefully, it's not like a Man United situation and there's all sorts of backroom drama. Hopefully, it's just, have a bit of a rest and come back in next week. But speaking of Man United, problems on the pitch, problems off the pitch. Where do we even start? Let's start with off the pitch. How do you solve a problem like Jadon Sancho? This mini-series drama has been dragging on for 1 or 2 weeks now. It started just before the international break. Sancho was left out of the matchday squad against Arsenal, and when asked why, Ten Hag said, his performances in training haven't been up to par. Sancho then responded on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling this social media now, basically saying that he's been the scapegoat for too long. He posted, "Please don't believe everything you read. I will not allow people saying things that is completely untrue. I have conducted myself in training very well this week. I believe there are other reasons for this matter that I won't go into. I've been a scapegoat for a long time, which isn't fair." After this was posted to Twitter, Man United asked Sancho, "Listen, mate, take it down and apologise. He is essentially your boss, and we don't like this sort of, negative media. We're trying to build a better reputation for Man United. We brought Erik Ten Hag in to change the culture of this sort of poisonous atmosphere we had over the last few seasons with Ronaldo." He refused. He didn't want to apologise to Ten Hag, and the post stayed up for about a week. It has now since been taken down. However, he has been banished from first team training and is now training with, I believe, the under-21s. But apparently, Ten Hag's frustrations are well founded. He's known for his timekeeping not being the best at all. I mean, when he was at Dortmund, the assistant manager would go and knock on his door when they were staying away so that he could come down for team meetings in time. His efforts in training have also been highlighted by other Man United players as not being up to par. This is from reports from The Athletic. They share Ten Hag's frustrations. So it's almost like he's isolating himself from Man United, which isn't good for the player and isn't good for the club. But how do you solve this? Honestly, obviously it's going to take an apology on Sancho's behalf. Will he do it? I think if he's left out for 2 or 3 more weeks, he just has to for his career. He can't go on not playing football. He has to suck it up and say, "Listen, I apologise. I need to work on this." But at the same time, maybe Man United need to talk to him as well. Since he's moved from Dortmund, his performances haven't installed much confidence, and maybe he's suffering with something. Maybe it's something that they need to talk about and they need to help him with. Maybe it's a two-way street. He needs some help and some support that Man United currently aren't offering, and then maybe they both mutually benefit. There were reports that while the Turkish and the Saudi transfer window is still open, he was being offered to Saudi clubs for around £65 million. You only bought the guy 2 years ago for about 75. I don't think they would have sold him. I still don't think they will sell him. But he does need to suck up his pride a little bit and get down to business. Especially if other players are noticing that you're not performing in training. You've got to get yourself back in that team. Not in the first team, but back in the group. Back in the social group. You don't want to isolate yourself from the rest of your team. Because it's career suicide. And where do you go if you're Jadon Sancho and you fall out of favour with Man United? You won't be going to a Big Five Premier League team. You won't be going to another top team in Europe because they know what you're like. It could spell the end for still a young, talented player. So we'll see what comes out of it. I expect in 2 or 3 weeks we'll get an apology on Twitter or X or Bebo or something. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes because Man United need every player they can get right now. And why do they need every player they can get? Well, they have potentially lost another winger for an unknown amount of time in Antony. The young Brazilian winger is currently facing allegations of physical assault from ex-girlfriends and former partners back in Brazil. One accuser has since dropped her allegations, but Sao Paulo police are currently investigating his conduct with his ex-girlfriend. She's saying that on 4 separate occasions he was physically violent with her, which, if true, is disgusting, and it's something that we're seeing far too often. However, no charges have been brought against him, and police are still investigating. No arrests have been made. So Man United have given him the time off to deal with these allegations. Again, he has denied everything. He's saying, listen, this is not the case. He did another whole, I think it was on Instagram, where he said that this was all untrue. And again, we need to wait before we make any judgments. We've seen in the past players that have been accused of X, Y, and Z and it not being true and it having real detriments to them and their careers. So let's wait until the facts come out before we start throwing around accusations. And while it all may turn out to be absolutely rubbish, it's just another unwanted headline by Man United. We had this almost exact same situation with Mason Greenwood last year, who's gone on to Getafe on loan. It's just the bad publicity around this club right now. There's like a dark cloud hanging over United. The fans booing all the decisions on the pitch, with Rasmus Højlund coming off at 3-1 down against Brighton. The tactics not working, the team not working together. The fans aren't behind the team. It's not working. Yes, you look at the same sort of situation with Chelsea. There are injuries. People like Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, and Malacia, who all need to come back and will play pivotal roles when they do. But much like Chelsea, there's no one in this team that's stepping up and taking responsibility. You look at people like Bruno Fernandes, who should be setting an example for the other young players in the squad and just everyone else in general. But he's not performing at the same levels that he was last year. Rashford as well has really been hit and miss. He was protesting his, the goal that wasn't given against Brighton, but the ball was very clearly out of play when the cross came in. It's just all isn't well right now. What United need is to get rid of all these allegations, get the team in just going in the right direction. That's the first thing. Erik ten Hag needs to sit down and say, listen, we are in this together. And he needs to build he needs to glue the squad together and say, listen, we are all in this together. We can do this. Let's push and let's do this. Let's get some results. What they do need as well is a little bit of luck in regards to the fixtures. They need a few games just to get them into things. No major, huge opponents, and just sort of get through a few easy games. Who have they got next? Harry Kane's Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Yeah, never mind. If you've liked this video from the SGFC, head down into the description below where you'll find all our social links. There's also a little red button down there. If you hit that, subscribe. It'd be really cool. It'll bring you plenty of good fortune to you and your football team. Like and comment, and we'll see you in the next video. Looking good. God, I need a haircut. Jesus.